الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين. اللهم إنا نحمدك يا ربنا حمد المعترفين بأنعمك العظيمة وآلائك الجسيمة. لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله وإليك يرجع الأمر كله علانيته وسره إنك على كل شيء قدير. لك العتبى حتى ترضى ولا حول ولا قوة لنا يا ربنا إلا بك. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وحبيبه، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وجاهد في الله حق الجهاد حتى أتاه اليقين. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على الحبيب المصطفى محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن اهتدى بهديه وعمل بعمله إلى يوم الدين، وارض عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Endless He is in His glory, the creator of heavens and earth, the provider, the sustainer, the cherisher. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bringing us to this world. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for providing us with all the blessings that we enjoy. And I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bringing us to the fold of Islam. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship save Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Allah's final prophet and messenger, the bearer of glad tidings, the role model to be followed. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I ask Allah to extend His peace and blessings upon the Prophet and his family, his descendants and companions, and all the righteous men and women that walk steadily in their footsteps. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make that each and every one of us. Allahumma ameen. My dear brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I wanted to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the very beginning of this khutbah to make the upcoming year a year of blessings, a year of fulfillment, a year of joy and happiness for each and every one of you and your families and your loved ones. Allahumma ameen. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the upcoming year to be a more peaceful year for the world and for the ummah. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it a year of a peace of mind, content and joy for us and everyone that we care about. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Muhammad ibn Ishaq is the very first historian in Islam. He wrote the biography of the Prophet ﷺ, and that was years before Ibn Hisham or anybody else that wrote his seerah. So the seerah of Ibn Ishaq, that is called Seeratu Rasulillah, the biography of the Messenger of Allah, basically, is the very first seerah book ever written. And it's an extremely powerful book, that employed the scientific method, the empirical method. He tried to verify his sources and acted truly like a historian. Traveled around and lived so many years in Medina, collecting reports about the life of the Prophet ﷺ to generate one comprehensive book that tells us the story of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Ibn Ishaq tells a remarkable story in his book. And it's a story that is narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, in which the leaders of Quraysh, the leaders of Mecca, they got so fed up with the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam and his message and his teachings. So they wanted to use a different method to attack the credibility of Islam and the credibility of the teachings of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. So the people of Quraysh sent two of their men, Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt and An-Nadr ibn al-Harith. They sent them to Medina to have a meeting with the Jewish rabbis of the Jewish minority in Medina at the time. And the purpose of that meeting was to ask the rabbis questions and to tell them, hey, you've been monotheists, you are in Abrahamic faith, you have your Torah, you have your Bible, you know about this more than us. Tell us, what is the deal with Muhammad? What do we need to tell him? What do we need to ask him? Because we cannot get through to him. We can't stop him. Uqba and An-Nadr, they traveled all the way to Medina in order to have a meeting with the rabbis. And in that meeting, the rabbis recommended that they ask the Prophet ﷺ 3 questions. They said, if you ask him those 3 questions, if he's an imposter, if he's not a true prophet, you will corner him and he will fail to answer. The rabbis said to Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt and An-Nadr ibn al-Harith, سَلُوهُ عَنِ الْفِتْيَةِ الَّذِينَ ذَهَبُوا فِي أَوَّلِ الدَّهْرِ. This is the first question. Ask him about the young men that disappeared in earlier times. سَلُوهُ عَنِ الْفِتْيَةِ الَّذِينَ ذَهَبُوا فِي أَوَّلِ الدَّهْرِ وَسَلُوهُ عَنْ رَجُلٍ طَوَّافٍ بَلَغَ مَشَارِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَمَغَارِبِهَا ذُكِرَ فِي كِتَابِنَا مَرَّةً وَاحِدَةً. Ask him about a man that roamed the earth, that traveled far and wide, east and west, that is mentioned in our books only once. وَسَلُوهُ عَنِ الرُّوحِ مَا هِي. And ask him about the spirit, الروح. What is it? Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt and Nadr ibn al-Harith, they took the 3 questions, they were excited. They said, finally, we can corner Muhammad. They go back to Mecca and they bring the tidings to the people of Quraysh. And they said to them, hey, we are ready now to put Muhammad in the corner. They go to the Messenger ﷺ and they asked him about the 3 things. Ya Muhammad, tell us about the young men that disappeared, the righteous young men that disappeared in earlier times. And tell us about this man that roamed the earth and traveled far and wide, east and west, that was mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible, in the Torah only once. And tell us about Ar-Ruh, the spirit. What is the secret of the spirit? Now the Prophet ﷺ did not know the answer to these questions. And as anyone who doesn't know the answer should, he said to them, you know what? I don't know, but I will give you the answer tomorrow. And the Prophet ﷺ forgot to say what? He forgot to say, Insha'Allah. Now the following day passed and the Prophet is waiting for Jibreel to bring him the answers. He waited a day and 2 days and a week and 2 weeks and nowhere to find Jibreel alayhi salam. And the Prophet was extremely distraught. And every day Uqba and An-Nadr and the leader of Quraysh, they would come to him in order to tease him, in order to hurt him and make fun of him and say, Ya Muhammad, what's going on? Your Jibreel and your God did not come back with the answers. What's wrong? All of a sudden, the divine is not listening to you anymore? The channels are blocked? What's going on? And they kept teasing the Prophet ﷺ because he failed to give them the answer. And he continues to pray. Now, if the Prophet was an imposter, he would have just made something up, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he couldn't help it. He had to wait for the answer to come from Allah Azza wa Jal. And the answer to the 3 questions came in the Quran when Jibreel finally revealed Surah Al-Kahf, the cave. And in Surah Al-Kahf, the most important lesson that Allah wanted to teach the Prophet and each and every one of us is this: وَلَا تَقُولَنَّ لِشَيْءٍ إِنِّي فَاعِلٌ ذَلِكَ غَدًا إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Don't ever say, I will do this tomorrow, unless you say, Insha'Allah. Because what happens tomorrow is not in your control, it's in the control of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's the first lesson. Don't ever talk about any plans in the future without saying, Insha'Allah, only if God wills it. I can only try, but only if God wills it. It's going to happen. And then the answer to the first 2 questions were revealed in Surah Al-Kahf. The young men, the righteous young men that disappeared in earlier times, that was Ashabul Kahf, the youth of the cave, mentioned at the very beginning of the surah. And the righteous man that roamed the earth far and wide, east and west, is also mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf, and his name was Dhul Qarnayn, the 2-horned man, the great leader that Surah Al-Kahf talks about towards the very end. And the answer to the 3rd question, Ar-Ruh, and what is it, was mentioned in the surah that was revealed just immediately thereafter, Surah Al-Isra. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. They ask you about the secret of the Ruh, the spirit. Tell them, The spirit belongs to the affairs and the knowledge of the Lord. I don't know. And all the knowledge that you have is but limited. And I wanted to take one aspect, one question of the three that the rabbis asked the Prophet ﷺ and make that into the topic of today's khutbah. Dhul Qarnayn and his travels. Qarnayn means horns, two horns, the man of two horns, because the kings of old used to wear, those beautiful helmets in times of war with two horns. But also, Qarn means epoch or century. A man of 2 centuries, a man of 2 epochs. A man whose power expanded beyond his time. Now, the Quran tells us remarkable stories about the journeys of Dhul Qarnayn. Tells us that Dhul Qarnayn went on 3 particular journeys that are mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf, right? He travels westwards. حتى إذا بلغ مغرب الشمس وجدها تغرب في عين حمئة. He noticed that the sun sets upon a murky lake. And over there were people that indulged in all types of sin. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Dhul Qarnayn, it is your responsibility to fix those people. Either you use coercive methods or you use kindness. I will leave it up to you, Dhul Qarnayn. Allah delegated it to Dhul Qarnayn radiallahu anhu. إِمَّا أَن تُعَذِّبَ وَإِمَّا أَن تَتَّخِذَ فِيهِمْ حُسْنًا. It is up to you. What method do you use in order to fix those people who indulge in all types of sins? And he was done fixing that. Took him years, whatever it was. And then he started traveling eastwards. حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ مَطْلِعَ الشَّمْسِ. He realized that the sun rises upon another civilization of very, very simple-minded people who did not know how to protect themselves from sun rays. They don't know how to protect themselves from the sun. They don't know how to dress properly to protect their skin from the sun. They don't know how to build houses and shacks and tents to protect themselves. They have no technology. They have no intelligence. And Dhul Qarnayn got involved helping those people protect themselves from the sun and all of its effects. But then we go into the most important journey that was mentioned in the Quran. حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ بَيْنَ السَّدَّيْنِ. The third journey took Dhul Qarnayn to a place between 2 mountain barriers. And over there was a third civilization of people that were extremely backwards. They did not understand how to speak. They did not understand how to help themselves. Just literally acted like Neanderthals. They acted like, primitive men, Neanderthals. The Quran says about them, لَا يَكَادُونَ يَفْقَهُونَ قَوْلًا. They barely even understand anything. Now they came complaining to Dhul Qarnayn and they told him that we are being harassed day in and day out by the 2 tribes of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. In the Bible, Gog and Magog. In almost every sacred book there's a mention of those 2 scary tribes of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. They call upon Dhul Qarnayn, help us, the people of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. They come into our town, they kill us, they hurt us, they rape our women, they take our stuff every day non-stop. Will you help us stop the evil of Ya'juj and Ma'juj? And we will pay you money for it. We will compensate you properly. And what does he say to them? He says, مَا مَكَّنِّي فِيهِ رَبِّي خَيْرٌ فَأَعِينُونِي بِقُوَّةٍ. When God endowed me with power and resources and resilience, that is my reward. I don't need your money. I don't need your compensation. Just the fact that I'm able to help people, that is God's prize for me. That is God's rewards for me. But I want you to help me. I can ask my men and my soldiers to help you and fix everything for you, but I don't want that. I want you to do it for yourselves. I want you to follow my instructions and you will realize that it's not rocket science to protect yourselves from the evil of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. I want you to light up fire and to bring iron and copper, and we are going to melt them together and use that to build a wall. We're going to build a wall that blocks the area between the 2 mountain barriers that will keep Ya'juj and Ma'juj behind, locked up, so that they never cross the wall and they never come and hurt you and destroy you. There are remarkable stories that the commentators taught us about the nature and the identity of Dhul Qarnayn. Some scholars said that Dhul Qarnayn is actually King Akhenaton, the great king of Egypt, of the pharaohs of the 18th dynasty, who brought monotheism to Egypt at the time. Some scholars said that it was one of the kings of Yemen, because the kings of Yemen used to use the word Dhi Yazan, Dhi Nuwas, Dhul Qarnayn before their names. Some scholars said that Dhul Qarnayn is actually Alexander the Great of Macedonia. There are so many scholars, including Tabari, that says that. And some scholars said, and this, in my personal opinion, is the most plausible. They say that Dhul Qarnayn is the great and righteous king of Persia, Quraysh. In Latin languages, they call him King Cyrus the Great. He's the honorable, just, and righteous king of Persia. That is also mentioned in the Bible, and he is the only non-Israelite king that is mentioned in the Bible as the anointed one, the Messiah. In one of the books of the Old Testament, he is mentioned as the anointed one, or the Messiah. The great king of Persia, Cyrus with the two horns. They also perpetuated remarkable stories about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. They said Ya'juj and Ma'juj are two major tribes, 400,000 men strong each. And they are descendants of Japheth, the son of Nuh, alayhi salam. They're short, they're stubby, they're scary, they're bent on mayhem and havoc and murder. And they have Asian features. And they will come at the end of times to destroy the world, in some narrations. Now some scholars said that Ya'juj and Ma'juj are the Tatars and the Mongols that wiped out the vast majority of the Muslim world at some point, that brought the Abbasid dynasty down, and with it, Arab rule over the empire. Some say that Ya'juj and Ma'juj is simply an allegorical reference to forces of evil that will come at some point to destroy the world. Whether it's communism, or plagues and illnesses and sickness and decay in morality, or whatever it is. Now there are modern commentators who say that Ya'juj and Ma'juj could be a Quranic reference to clone wars. The young people here may understand what that is. That countries in the future will use technology to create clones of soldiers, and use those soldiers with no soul or morality or standard and put them to war, to fight and kill and murder, with no recourse whatsoever, with no hesitation whatsoever, or control whatsoever. To be honest with you, I don't buy into any of those theories, because I believe that the Quran left the identity of Dhul Qarnayn and Ya'juj and Ma'juj vague for a reason. The Quran never reveals the identities. The Quran, even when the Quran talks about Fir'aun, doesn't tell us which Pharaoh. It could have been Ramesses, right? As some people say according to the Bible. But the Quran left it vague. The Quran doesn't tell us the identity of Dhul Qarnayn, doesn't tell us the identity of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj, doesn't tell us the identity of the Queen of Sheba, doesn't tell us the identity of the righteous man from the people of Pharaoh, doesn't tell us the identity of Ashabul Qaryah, the people of the village. Some scholars say it's Antioch. We don't know. It's all speculation. The Quran, brothers and sisters, left the identities of those events and those places and those people vague, so that the moral lesson continues to be timeless and universal. So that today in California in 2017, we can still learn and we can still benefit. If I said that Dhul Qarnayn is the king of Persia, Cyrus the Great, and the story is confined to, God knows how many thousands of years ago, that will not benefit me much. But if I learn that Dhul Qarnayn represents good, and that Ya'juj and Ma'juj represent evil, then the lesson becomes timeless and universal, has no limitations whatsoever. You see, for the longest time we used to think that the world is divided to two camps, right? Good and evil. If you are not evil, then that naturally makes you good. But the story of Dhul Qarnayn and Ya'juj and Ma'juj taught us that the world is essentially divided into 3 groups and not 2. Dhul Qarnayn represents the good people, him and his team, him and his army. And Ya'juj and Ma'juj, they represent the malicious, evil, sinister group that are bent on hurting others. But what is the 3rd group in the middle? The 3rd group represents most of us when you think about it. Most of us are neither heroes nor villains. We're just average folks who are trying to get by and go about our daily business and go to school and go to work and earn for our families and, stay out of anybody's business. The group in the middle that went to Dhul Qarnayn seeking help, that the Quran calls, they are simple-minded people who barely understand anything. I actually think that represents most of us. They are not necessarily heroes. They were not in the army of Dhul Qarnayn. And they were not villains. They didn't belong to Ya'juj and Ma'juj. They were just simple, ordinary people who wanted to mind their own business. But because they were attacked by the evil people, they had to go and seek help from the good guys. Now let me characterize this a little bit differently to make a point. Think of the world as shepherds, wolves, and sheep. Most of us don't want to be wolves, because you know what wolves do? Wolves want to hurt others. They are evil, they are sinister, they're malicious. They are the villains in the story. Wolves want to take what they can and give nothing in return. Wolves want to go after you and suck your blood and take your possessions and put you down and humiliate you. And if they can make you disappear, they'll be happy. That's what wolves do. Now shepherds, on the other hand, they want to help and serve. They are involved. They are leaders. They are insightful mentors. They are teachers. They are advocates. They are activists. They dedicate a significant amount of their time and resources to the service of others and to helping others. That's what shepherds do. What about sheep? And I don't mean sheep in a negative or derogatory sense, by the way. I mean sheep as just simple creatures who just want to graze. They want to feed and be happy. I mean, when you look at sheep in a farm, eating grass, do you think of sheep as hero? Sheep are not heroes. Do you think of sheep as villains? We don't think of them as villains. We just think of them as simple sheep. And so sometimes it's okay to be a sheep, honestly. Sheep are just average. But here's the problem. We need to decide if we are shepherds, or if we are villains, or if we are sheep. At the end of the day, young and old, by the way, all of us, we just need to make a choice. It is not okay to be a villain, obviously. You cannot be Ya'juj and Ma'juj. You cannot be a wolf. And if you are a wolf, you won't be here in the first place. I don't think we have any wolves in our midst. Alhamdulillah. I doubt it. Because wolves are not interested in these clean, beautiful, pure settings. Wolves are out there waiting for you to come outside to hurt you. That's what wolves do. So everyone here is either a shepherd or a sheep. And again, I don't mean sheep in a negative sense. We just need to decide whether we are sheep or shepherds. You know why? Because if you choose to be a shepherd, then you have to get involved, and you have to lead, and you have to be insightful in your choices and decisions, and you have to be a role model, and you have to stand up for things that are righteous. If you are a student at school, and you see someone else is getting bullied, let me ask the students. So you have a class of 30 plus students, and one kid is getting bullied. Wouldn't you agree with me that most kids are just going to watch and observe and do nothing about it? Yeah, because they're sheep. And again, it is okay to be a sheep if that is your choice. Just understand what comes with it. If you would like to be a sheep, understand what comes with it. But if you would like to be a shepherd, then you have to stand up for bullying. There's a lot of widespread mental health problem now in our schools. Everyone knows that. A lot of depression among young kids. A lot of suicide, you guys. You understand that? A lot of suicide is happening in public schools, even like in upscale, really good public schools such as ours, right here in Roseville. Every few months we hear about a kid that took his own life or a kid that took her own life. If you see one of your friends at school suffering from a mental health problem and you want to be a shepherd, then you need to do something about it. You need to report it. You need to talk to your teachers, talk to your parents. You don't settle until there is an intervention of some sort. If you see one of your friends is getting involved, God forbid, in drugs or anything that is wrong and haram and harmful, you get involved until you get it fixed. You find a way. That's what shepherds do. You volunteer at the masjid. You feed the homeless. If you are a shepherd and there is a homeowners association, in your subdivision, you become a member of the homeowners association. If you are a shepherd, you get involved in activism. You help care. You raise money for a good politician. If you're a shepherd, you investigate the laws, and you don't settle until you join a group that will help change those laws. That's what shepherds do. And if you want to become a sheep, is it haram to be a sheep, by the way? It's not haram. Most people are sheep. Let's face it. It's the reality of the world. Most people just want to be simple and lead simple lives and get out of everybody's business. They don't want to become leaders. They don't want to speak to the media. They don't want to attend the city council meeting. I get it. I get it. Not all of us are cut out the same way. I understand that. It's the reality of the world. If you would like to be a sheep, then you need to understand the boundaries and the limitations. You cannot forget that the wolves are still out to get you. You want to be a sheep? Don't think that you will just graze the farm and just be happy. You need to know that the wolves are lurking behind the tree line. And they're waiting for the slightest possibility when you turn your eyes away to come and scratch you and suck your blood and take something from you that is not theirs. If you want to be the sheep, then you need to help the shepherd. If you can't be a leader, then at least be a good follower. Support the shepherd. Be there for the shepherd. Provide resources for the shepherd. If you can't protect yourself, at least make sure that someone else out there is working as hard as possible to protect you. Right? It's just simple math. If you'd like to become a sheep, make sure that your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is strong at least. Prayer 5 daily prayers. Make dua as much as possible. Stay connected to the masjid. Make sure, and this is what the hadith says, make sure that you have good company. And the Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, الشيطان من الواحد أقرب وهو إلى الاثنين أبعد. Shaitan is closer to the one. If you're by yourself, shaitan is closer to you. And shaitan is farther from you when you are with somebody else. When you are by yourself, most of the time, and you are victim to your own thoughts and your own predispositions and your own ideas, and you're not surrounding yourself with good people, either other students at school or kids in the community. I hear this a lot now from, sometimes from my own children and from other children in the community. They tell me stories. My friend so-and-so said a bad word in class. My friend so-and-so did this horrible thing. I was like, wait a second. Why are you calling them your friend? Why are you calling them your friend? They're not your friend. You need to decide. Are you a shepherd or are you a sheep? Because you cannot be in the company of wolves. If you want to be in the company of wolves, they'll hurt you. But when you decide to be a shepherd, can shepherds be in the company of wolves? Yes, sometimes. Because they're trying to help wolves cross the line and either become sheep or shepherds. Umar ibn al-Khattab, before Islam, used to be a wolf. And after he became Muslim, he became what? A sheep? Became a shepherd. The Prophet ﷺ used to make dua for Abu Jahl, to bring Abu Jahl to Islam. Why? Because he knows that really good and effective wolves can also become effective what? Shepherds. Or at least if we can help them become sheep, then alhamdulillah, that's a good step. At least they're not evil anymore. So shepherds are qualified to work with wolves sometimes. And they're qualified definitely to work with sheep. But don't tell me, if you're a sheep, don't tell me that, you know what, I'm strong enough. I'm going to go and spend some time with the wolves. I'll be fine. Don't tell me that. Become a shepherd first and then engage with the wolves all you want. But when you're simple and vulnerable, don't tell me I am hanging out with people that are doing horrific things and they're my friends. They're not your friends, I guarantee. They're anything but your friends. One of the brothers, a young brother in middle school, was telling me, in one of the halaqas that we have, he was telling me, there was a conversation we're having with some kids, and I asked them, everyone needs to tell me one bad thing that they did last week. And this kid said, I spent like 3 hours on YouTube the other day. Of course it's his parents' fault, but that's a different conversation. Why are you letting the kids stay on their tablets and their, smartphones 3 hours at a time watching YouTube videos? Just beyond me. I don't understand. That the lack of responsibility in this behavior is astounding. But that's not the point. The point is, I asked him, what are you doing on YouTube? He said, Imam, how it is. You watch one video and then another video is suggested, so you watch that other video, and then another video is suggested, you watch the other video, and all of a sudden, it's 3 hours later. So I asked him, what are you watching? You're going to like this. He said, I was watching YouTube videos about kids destroying their iPhones. Are you serious? He said, yes. There's this kid that gets a snail, and he puts a snail on the iPhone, and he says the snail moving on the iPhone is the best way to clean the screen. And he lets the snail crawl around the iPhone, and everyone is watching. There's like 5-6 million views to this video on YouTube, right? And they're watching and watching and watching, and the whole thing doesn't make any sense. Because it's disgusting. There's slime all over the iPhone, right? And then after that, he removes the snail and he grabs a hammer and he destroys the iPhone completely. There's no purpose to this, except to glue you as a consumer, as a simple-minded sheep, to sit and watch the video, and they're making money with every like and every click and every second you spend on that video. And then this video leads to another video, and that video leads to another video, and 3 hours later, you've made them thousands of dollars, and your mind is corrupted, and you're wasting your time. You could have memorized Surah Al-Zalzala by that time. Right? And the time that is wasted on these things is astounding. Now, I'm not saying don't go on social media. Some of you are on Instagram or whatever, they follow celebrities. It's a complete waste. Every time you watch a video from one of the celebrities, they make like $100,000. They make $100,000 and you're doing nothing. You are allowing them to corrupt your mind. You are letting the wolves take advantage of you. You can't do that. Now, is it wrong to be on social media? Obviously not. There's a lot of things that we can learn on social media. However, be a smart sheep at least about it. Subscribe to YouTube channels that teach you something useful, DIY, whatever it is. At least you benefit, they benefit, that's fine. Speaking of YouTube and producing stuff on social media, shepherds, sheep, and wolves do things differently on social media. Wolves will produce bad videos to entice the sheep. Shepherds will produce good videos to benefit the sheep. And sheep will just consume videos. If you're not so smart, you will consume the bad videos, but if you're a smart sheep, at least be a smart sheep. If you want to be a sheep, be a smart sheep. Consume the good videos. Consume the good material. Be smart. Be smart when you approach these things, because there are people out there that are bent, like Ya'juj and Ma'juj. They are bent on spreading mayhem and causing moral decay and bringing us all down and destroying our moral principles as a society. This is clear and present danger, brothers and sisters. And that is essentially the purpose of Surah Al-Kahf. Why do we have to read this stuff every Friday? Think about that. I talked about this last week. Surah Al-Kahf is so important, and we have to read it every Friday because it's a constant reminder of the three groups of people on this earth. Sheep, shepherds, and the villains that are Ya'juj and Ma'juj, the wolves. You need to decide which group you belong to, young and old. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide us with the intelligence, with the enlightenment and the insight to be able to navigate our lives in this world in ways that please Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, raise your hands and speak to Allah Azza wa Jal from the heart. ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالإجابة. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وقائد الغر الميامين محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وارض عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك أرحم الراحمين اللهم آمين. My dear brothers and sisters, today I shared with you the story of Dhul Qarnayn, the man of two epochs, the man of two centuries, the timeless great leader, the man of two horns, as the Quran calls him, that dedicated his life to the help and service of others. And I talked to you about the story of Ya'juj and Ma'juj that represent evil and villainy, that represent sinister behavior, the wolves of the story. And I said that the world is divided into three groups. One group is the shepherds, represented by Dhul Qarnayn. And the other group is the wolves, represented by Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And the third group is sheep. Some sheep are smart, and some sheep are not very smart. And it is not haram to be a sheep, but it is foolish to be a sheep that is not smart. And then you allow yourself to be eaten away by the villains of the story, by the wolves, by Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Rather, you try as much as possible to become a shepherd. And if you can't become a shepherd, at least help the shepherds. Support the shepherds. Be there for the shepherds and let the shepherds help you. If you can't be a great leader, at least get out of the way and let the shepherds do their job. This is how the world is, and this is how we can stay intact. There is a hadith that I wanted to conclude the khutbah with. And this is a hadith that was narrated by Zainab bint Jahsh radiallahu anha. And it's in Bukhari and in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad. One of extremely few ahadith, by the way, about the events of the end of time that you find in Bukhari. Because most of the ahadith about the end of time, you don't find them in the great collections. And most of them are quite questionable, but maybe I need to talk about this at another setting. 99% of the ahadith about the end of times and the events of the end of times are questionable in their authenticity and in the collections that have them. So if you look at the major collections, extremely rare to find anything like that. But this hadith is one of them. The Prophet ﷺ was asleep and he woke up. It's almost like he had a nightmare of some sort. And he screamed, وَيْلٌ لِلْعَرَبِ مِنْ شَرٍ قَدْ اقْتَرَبَ. Woe unto the Arabs from an evil that has drawn near. And Zainab bint Jahsh was so worried. Messenger of Allah, what is it? He told her, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that the wall that keeps the Ya'juj and Ma'juj behind cracked by this much. And he used his two fingers like that to create a tiny little ring. It cracked by this much meaning that it'll continue to crack until the wall crumbles and Ya'juj and Ma'juj and their evil are unleashed upon the world. Now, if I was there, if you were there, naturally you would ask the Prophet ﷺ some science fiction questions about, Ya Rasulullah, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, oh my goodness, what do they look like? What are they going to do? But what does Zainab ask him? See the insight? It tells you, in my opinion, it tells you that this whole thing is an allegory. This whole thing is a metaphor. She asked him, Ya Rasulullah, أَنَهْلَكُ وَفِينَ الصَّالِحُونَ. We will be destroyed and there are the righteous among us. She didn't ask him about Ya'juj and Ma'juj and who they are and what their nature, what they look like. No. She said, we will be destroyed while there are still righteous people among us. And he told her, and this is what I leave you with, he told her, نَعَمْ إِذَا كَثُرَ الْخَبَثِ. Yes, when sin becomes prevalent. When sinful behavior becomes acceptable, what does that mean? It means that we, with our choices, can either delay or hasten the attacks of the virtual Ya'juj and Ma'juj upon us and upon our moral systems. With the choices that we make. We can either bring that destruction faster or we can delay it with our day-to-day choices. If we allow sinful behavior to become acceptable and prevalent. Oh, today the state of California and the federal government or whatever it is, they made gay marriage into law and now it's okay. Well, it has to be okay, because it's legal. No, it's not. And it never will be. In your heart as a Muslim, yeah, people can make the choices they would like to make. That's fine. It's between them and God. But the definition of what is righteous can never shake in your heart. Homosexuality is not the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to live. And it continues to be sinful. And it continues to shake the throne of the Lord when it's committed. That will never change. I don't care if all the kids at your school think it's okay. You can still stand up and say, no, it's not. And you know what? It never will become okay. The state of California can legalize marijuana. For all practical purposes, let them legalize heroin and cocaine as well. It's all a matter of choice, right? Let people choose for themselves. If they would like to destroy themselves, let them be. It will never be okay. The consumption of substance will never be okay. Drinking alcohol will never be okay. If every single other kid has a girlfriend or a boyfriend and you're the only one that doesn't, it still doesn't make it right. It still doesn't make it right. If every other person uses the F word, forgive me for saying this, because I've seen that this is becoming common in our community. In front of me and at the masjid, in front of the shepherds, they don't say it. But I know that in their social circles they say it. In front of non-Muslims they say it. They listen, they watch the movies where profanity is prevalent. And they don't think it's wrong anymore. They think it's funny. They think it's funny. You know what? I don't care how prevalent evil and sinful behavior becomes in your heart. You still have to reject it. And you cannot engage in it. And you cannot be a part of it. And that is the only way we can prevent the unleash of Ya'juj and Ma'juj and whatever it is that they represent upon our community and upon our society. We have to stand our ground. We determine how fast this destruction comes. We determine how fast it comes. As the Prophet says, إِذَا كَثْرَ الْخَبَثِ, when sinful behavior becomes prevalent. And the only valve that stands between complete destruction, that stands between us and complete destruction, is the Muslim community and the moral stance of the Muslim community. And I wanted to leave you with that thought. This is the beginning of the new year, and we have choices to make. This year, inshallah ta'ala, no one will choose to become a wolf, I hope. But if you choose to become a sheep, at least be a smart sheep. And if you choose to become a shepherd, which is the best choice, then join hands with us. And let us know how you can help and serve the community so that we can continuously keep Ya'juj and Ma'juj at bay. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us our sins, to establish us with firmness on His path. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the strength to still make the right moral choices in this difficult world of ours. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to accept our good deeds as few as they are. And I ask Allah to forgive our sins as abundant as they are. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to treat us with His mercy and not with His justice. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this day to bring our community closer to each other, to give us the strength to make da'wah and to inspire others to the path of Islam with our moral choices and our good character every day. And as Allah brought us here in this shape and form, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us all under the shade of His throne on the day of judgment and to admit us to Jannah. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma laka alhamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhika wa azimi sultanik. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim tasliman kathira. Taqabbal minna ya Rabbana. إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم اللهم إنا نسألك من كل خير سألك منه محمد ونعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذ بك منه محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم بارك في أخوتنا واجمعنا على قلب أتقى واحد فينا اللهم يا ربنا ارحم أمواتنا وأموات المسلمين اللهم يا ربنا اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين اللهم كن معنا وارفعنا برحمتك إلى أعلى عليين اللهم يا ربنا وانصر برحمتك الدين اللهم يا ربنا واجعلنا لك شكارين لك مخلصين إليك مخبتين عليك متوكلين اللهم وكما جمعتنا هكذا على هذه الصورة وبهذه الهيئة اجمعنا يا ربنا في مستقر رحمتك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات يا رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا